organizations and the efforts for financial inclusion. The challenge of financial inclusion is common across the world. The people who have the least means have to pay the most to access financial services. More often than not, they are excluded from the formal financial sector, and therefore they have to depend on informal sources. Now, the cost of availing financial services from informal sources is always very high, and this is true even for countries which are uh, prosperous. People who are not well off in such countries also find it expensive to avail uh, financial services. And in the context of developing countries, we have a fair section of the population who are involved in activities, economic activities, where they do not earn much, but they have all kinds of needs for financial services, and in case they have access to such formal financial services, they are able to possibly raise their income levels and improve their standards of living. Civil society organizations have played a stellar role as far as financial inclusion is concerned. Uh, in fact, if you look at the origins of microfinance in South Asia, in Bangladesh, even in India, the SAG movement, the Grameen Bank, and Professor Muhammad Yunus in Bangladesh, these were not driven by businesses or even by the government. So the civil society organizations have played a stellar role as far as proving the fact that people who are economically underprivileged still have needs for financial services, and in case they have access to those services, they are able to uh, improve their incomes and do much better. So this is a fundamental contribution which the civil society has already made as far as financial inclusion is concerned. Um, Here in India, we see that a lot of microfinance institutions which have now become banks, small finance banks, or non-banking financial institutions started as not-for-profit organizations. Now, given that they were able to prove that providing financial services to the financially excluded or to the low-income clients is a worthy market segment, and as a result of that, there is a lot of commercial interest in catering to this market segment. Now, having said that, the interface with formal financial sector has not been all that pleasant for the low income segment. In the case of a developing economy like India, uh, uh, we've had situations where the provider of financial services have or has a much higher power to negotiate or bargain than the client. So as a result of that, the financial services are tailored in a manner that is fundamentally beneficial to the provider and probably does not care so much for the recipient. As a result of that, in the Indian context again, we've had situations where high cost products which were not really appropriate for a particular clientele or for a particular need were pushed in the market, driven by incentives and commissions for agents. Now, according to me, uh, uh, this is a role which the civil society should and needs to play, so that the financial inclusion itself meaningfully leads to improvement in the lives of the clients. Now, given that the experience has not been so good for the clients, there is a loss of trust also among the clients regarding the formal financial institutions that they access their services from. We've done a fair bit of field research here in India and also in Africa across several countries. My colleague Rahul is here, who has led our efforts in Africa. Uh, very often the feedback we have received is that the clients have a trust deficit as far as banks are concerned. Now, civil society organizations possibly can help address this trust deficit. Uh, and how can they do that? They can promote ethical trade practices. In India, again, led by Sadhan, a code of conduct for MFIs was developed, and at M2I we take pride in saying that we were the ones who did the first code of conduct assessments, and we did those assessments for SEDB, but we were the first ones to do that. We were the first ones to develop that. So, I mean, that is an example of trying to ensure that ethical trade practices are promoted and encouraged in the microfinance sector, particularly, and the financial inclusion efforts broadly. CSOs can also play a role in increasing the financial awareness among clients. The reason why clients are sometimes taken for a ride is because they do not understand financial terms and conditions which any financial product may have. I mean, they may get confused when they are even exposed to the various components of pricing of a loan or of an insurance product. So, I mean, to tell them or to raise their awareness in a manner where they really become aware, and to tell them these things in a language which they understand, I guess that's a role which only the civil society can play. And another important role which I think the civil society should play is to nurture grassroots innovations. I think the joint liability lending model or the SHG model were all grassroots innovations which catered to a need which was not being fulfilled by the market or by the businesses that operate in the market. So, civil society organizations have a role to play there, and we have a lot to learn from each other also. Because while the problems may be common across our countries, the solutions that emerge may not be common. There may be innovations which might be taking place in Kenya, which may be applicable in India, or there might be lessons in India which might be applicable when it comes to financial inclusion efforts in South Africa or Brazil. So, research on experience of clients as financial inclusion initiatives take hold, and cross-learning becomes very important. Also, when it comes to South-South cooperation, there is a general need for institution building to promote independent research and for, like I said, dissemination of experiences and best practices in financial inclusion. Finally, maybe there's also cooperation needed so that we can evolve a supervisory framework for civil society organizations which allow us to identify the ones which are better. So these are my thoughts. Thank you.